Wow. Wow. Where was the love? It broke my heart. Alright? I had a total of 3 students from my 2 classes who showed up for yesterday's tutoring. Really? That's you were there yesterday. You weren't? The pain, people. I expect to see you. Well, I'm not even going to be there. It's going to be some other teacher that's going to be tutoring you. Alright? There's tutoring today after 9th period. Teacher's cafeteria. I expect you to turn out, but this is a serious matter. Alright? We need you guys to pass these exams. Alright? It's not for your well-being, it's for the well-being of the entire school. Alright? You want to stay in this school? You want to continue having good classes, good materials? Imagine if we get a failing grade on these global fitness exams, we're going to be broken up into one of those small schools. Right? If you want to be a part of those small schools, let me tell you, they're a mess. Right? They're not very functional. Alright, so I need you to go to tutoring. Yes, and remember today, those that were giving the permission slips for writers workshop, it starts today. Tuesdays and Wednesdays during the lunch period. So I expect to see your little faces there. If you have lunch during 5th or 6th or 7th period, well, 5th and 6th period is going to be in this room. Alright? Did I give you this yesterday, Ivy? A slip to get out of lunch? Oh, you were absent, right? No? So this allows you to skip the line at the cafeteria and get your lunch and bring it downstairs for tutoring. Alright? Okie dokie. So you guys wrote down your homework assignments, ready to go. I want you to answer today's exam. It's right here. Today we're going to put it together. But yes, that's together. That's the homework on Israel, part 2, which we'll be doing on Thursday. If anybody was asking yesterday, all the homework assignments are in the back with this 3rd marker period. So make sure you get it. Alright, so right now, answer the do now. Based on your homework assignments on Zimbabwe, Kenya, and your own personal knowledge, how has war impacted the lives of Africans today? Just think about your homework. You could even discuss with the person sitting next to you. Jog your memory. It destroys their economy. What else? Speak up. The people, did everybody hear that? What did she say? For those that heard her over here? It destroys the people. Why? You want to repeat it?
Probably there's the development and the child, they have to choose which child they belong to, their parents were right that decides where they belong or not.
Okay, so there's a lot of tribal conflict, right? Any other things that you recall from your homework? Jasmine?
People are unemployed and they live in poverty.
People are unemployed, they live in poverty. People are sick. Speak up. They're what? They don't have food. Why? They have economic problems. They can't afford food. Lack of health care. Lack of education. So various problems, Julianne. They have high crime rates. Why? Any idea as to why? Simon? Okay, so high crime rates, they're going crazy when the economy is down. That creates turmoil.
They're blaming other tribes for their misfortunes, so they're going to kill each other. So now it's not important that they know their own tribe, their own language, and they have their identity cards.
Yeah. So that's a very scary world to live in. I mean, like, there's anxiety. People are blaming other tribes for their misfortune. It's very good what Jennifer just finished saying, right? It causes, like, just anxiety in this whole community, right? You have to be very careful, right, of like what your identity card says, right? You have to be able to speak the tribe, whichever tribe is in control of the region. You better be able to speak their language, or what happens? You get chopped up, you get killed. All right, it's a chaotic situation that's going on in a lot of these countries in Africa. Today we're going to be looking at various ways in how war, disease, and the environment impact the lives of Africans today. The first clip we're going to be seeing from this documentary is on education, educating the youth. All right, as you watch this clip, I want you to write and just take down as much notes as possible and answer this question. What effects might a country's civil war have in its education system? All right, so answer this question as we go along.
Many young people in today's Africa have vastly different lives than children growing up in America, and they often have to deal with problems and responsibilities that even adults might find overwhelming. The Democratic Republic of Congo is bordered by Angola, Cabinda, the Republic of the Congo, the Central African Republic, Sudan, Uganda, Rwanda, Burundi, Tanzania, and Zambia. The Democratic Republic of Congo is nearly a quarter of the size of the United States and is Africa's third largest country. The capital, Kinshasa, is on the Congo River and is the largest city in Central Africa. Compared to the mid-1980s, the economy of the Democratic Republic of Congo has declined drastically as the country has been devastated by years of government power struggles and civil war. Beginning in 1998, rebels and the government have been fighting for control of the country. The fighting has hurt the entire society, and the schools have been particularly disrupted. But things might be looking up. For the first time since 1998, students are taking their high school final exams. It is 6 a.m., and the exam papers are being distributed to schools in both government and rebel-controlled areas. For the past 2 years, students have had to repeat grade levels because the exam papers couldn't be distributed or graded due to all the fighting. And since the country has few paved roads or airports, getting the exams to the students is even more difficult. But this year, the United Nations has airlifted in officials and test uniforms and will oversee their delivery to every high school in the country. It's 7:45, and the papers have arrived at the school. Being here is a major accomplishment for the students. Historically, only 24% of the country's boys and less than 13% of the girls make it this far. Since it spends so much money fighting, the government uses less than 1% of its budget on education. Parents basically have to pay to run the schools. It's a huge commitment. Classes cost around $60, more than half a year's wages for most Congolese workers. Families often can't afford to send all their children to school, so school enrollment has been low for decades. 8:15, and the Vice Minister for Education has arrived to get a first-hand view of the exams. The minister has come because the exams taking place again is a cause for pride. The exams start for these students and 200,000 others across the country. Their parents have struggled for years to put them through school. For the students, it's time to make their parents proud. For many, the opportunities an education can bring are just a dream, but these students have taken the first step toward making a better future for themselves and for their war-torn nation. It's the same across the country, in government-controlled areas and rebel-held sections. It's a day to celebrate, whichever side you're on.
Alright, so take a moment. Why don't you review your responses with the person sitting next to you? Alright, because we all pick up different materials. You say you're going to take down your own
seems to have infection each year. Really how long individuals taking the drugs can survive, or whether the virus will mutate. Many years later, they don't care. Vaccine. There is no cause for
Complacency. What does that word mean?
you're satisfied, you're satisfied.
Yeah, that you just kind of accept it for what it is, right? So make sure you write that down, circle that word, and it's like complacency. When you just kind of accept the status quo, right? That you just accept the way things are. That's just the way it is, right? It's like, oh, you feel bad about what's going on. Right? It's beyond. All right, it's going on. What does it have to do with my everyday life? But in fact, connected world. How we depend on one another. How developed first world nations, right? Superpowers are allowing this disease to continue to spiral out of control. All right. So we're going to be looking at some case studies of people who are infected by this disease in Africa, in various countries. One story, I think, takes place. These are guidelines. Tanzania. All right. What are her concerns? What are her nurses' concerns? What are the problems with health care?
Face of the African continent. Without the life-saving treatments available to people in the United States and Europe, thousands of adults and children are dying each day.
AIDS is now acknowledged as the worst plague humankind has ever faced. Years from now, people will ask about AIDS as for the Holocaust. How could they have known and failed to
It
do
is
that?
estimated that 40 million people in the world are living with HIV/AIDS. Nearly 3/4 of these people live on the continent of Africa. You will hear stories that reflect the perspectives of people in two cities in East Africa, Nairobi in Kenya and Dar es Salaam in Tanzania. But these two cities are typical of nearly all of the urban centers in Africa, and the spread of the disease in the rural areas is even greater. In Dar es Salaam on the coast of Tanzania, we will join staff members from an organization called PASADA as they reach out to the poorest victims of AIDS throughout the city. In Nairobi, we will follow medical professionals and community volunteers through the slums of Matare Valley and Kariobangi as they attempt to relieve the suffering of people living with AIDS and extreme poverty.
In my rural village, I had a farm. I planted cabbage and took it to market, and we managed okay. But then I got sick, and now I am helpless. It is hard for me because I am a person who likes to work. So my old mother came to the farm and brought me here. She carried me because I could not walk. I could not even speak. It seems like the life has just gone out of me. God gave me 4 children. 3 have died and only 1 is left.
What I've recognized about my patient's doctor, the child is living a very poor life because the other children passed away, and also the child can recognize the condition of the mother is not good. Sometimes it is hectic to me because I'm trying to solve their problem, whereby I can't solve their problems and mine. When I combine them, I'm in a situation whereby I can't do much than what I can do.
The tragedy is those who are being infected with AIDS, the largest percentage of them will have very little access to care. They claim over 50% of all hospital beds in the city of Nairobi are with HIV positive patients. There's a larger infection rate within the rural areas. And what it really seems to be going on is that the poor are basically being left by themselves to deal with the issues of AIDS.
Serafina's story.
My great worry is that I do not have somebody to care for me. I have no child, no mother, no father. I have no one. You see this house? It's so broken. When the rain comes down, I just sit like this in my pain.
Most of them will die okay, but they are not supposed to die suffering. She is in pain, but you can relieve the pain by giving something. Because if you leave her at that time, that is the most time when she needs somebody. There has been a massive breakdown in healthcare in Africa. Kenya is a very good example. We hardly have a public health system in place. And so people who, to a certain degree in the 70s, had some access to healthcare have nothing to fall back on. So they're sick, they're poor, they don't have enough to eat, and HIV virus has a field day. The largest number of people infected with the HIV virus are young people between 15 and 19 years old in this country, between 25 to 35%, which means, in a very terrible sense, that a generation is dying away and with them their children as well.
AIDS has affected every aspect of life in Africa. You know, we have to remember in the U.S., you know, we're still talking less than 1% of the population. And in Africa, we fight about the statistics, but you know, whether it's 10% or 20% or 30%, it's so enormous that people begin just shutting down emotionally because there's so much death.
Alright, so let's just quickly go over this. So the first story, Rosalind's story. How was her life before she got sick? She worked a lot. Anything else? She had a farm. Right? Things were good for her. What happened after the sickness? She couldn't walk anymore. She couldn't speak. Anybody else? unpaved roads, things of that nature. Please write this down too. We did not know this vocabulary word that you should know by now. Considering that we're a month away from the big day. Oh, okay, look at her. It can be sized very good, right? Definitely. I mean, you probably have lack of proper shoes, of clothing. I mean, you're more susceptible to getting a disease. All right? Unsanitary conditions. Anybody else? You were going to say something, Betty? What? They're alone, they're poor. I mean, just little access to information in this situation. All right. There are also other problems that are plaguing South Africa. We're not going to get an opportunity to look at the orphans, but clearly a lot of these children are left on their own, without a social network, without the family that they need. What are some other problems that may affect the people of Africa? If you turn the page, the environment also plays a factor, right? Take a look at that picture. Based on this image, how would you define deforestation? The cutting down of trees. What sort of problems would cutting down trees create? Less oxygen, write that down. What else? What?
There's no oxygen, so it's basically like, if they're in a small area, there's no oxygen, they're basically breathing the same exact air.
Look at it.
It's not filtered? Yeah, it's not.
Okay, there's a little, okay, this is turning into a science class. All right, so maybe the quality of the air becomes poor, right? What could it possibly do to the soil? Come on. What?
No nutrients for the soil.
No nutrients for the soils, right? You're cutting down trees. What else could it, I mean, look at that soil. How does it look like to you? It becomes a wasteland. It becomes dried out. All right. How about also think about when it rains, right? What happens when you cut the trunk of a tree? The roots, it dies, right? Think about if it rains, all right, in a forest area, right? And there's no trees to hold the soil in, keep the foundation. What's going to start happening? Mudslides, runoffs, right? And whole area totally devastated, right? As a result, you may even have desertification, right? The expansion of a desert, and that is a word, by the way. You may be like, what? What is she talking about? But no, it is. We actually, and this is something else, on top of everything, on top of the civil wars, on top of the AIDS epidemic, oh my God, the environment is also caving in a lot of these countries in Africa. So we're going to be looking at this clip of Ghana. All right, what's happening in Ghana with deforestation? Answer the questions as we go along.
The economic, social, and various other pressures that many African nations face has given them a growing environmental problem, the over-exploitation of their natural resources.
The Republic of Ghana lies on the Gulf of Guinea in West Africa and borders Burkina Faso, Cote d'Ivoire, and Togo. Although it's slightly smaller than the state of Oregon, Ghana has many natural resources. A tropical forest belt covers the southern third of Ghana. These forests produce most of the country's cocoa, minerals, and timber. But many of the people of Ghana are sacrificing their valuable forests. Poverty and population pressures are forcing people to cut down more and more of the tropical rainforest. Cutting down large sections of forest is called deforestation. Since 1981, Ghana's forests have been reduced to just 1/4 of their original size. The main reason the trees are being cut down is to sell them to the timber industry. In Ghana's cash-starved economy, selling trees is a quick way to earn money. Today, timber is Ghana's third largest export. But Ghana's timber industry is very inefficient. While most developed countries use up to 95% of each tree that's cut down, Ghana uses less than a quarter. After taking the trunk, the rest of the tree is often left to rot. And unlike other countries that face deforestation problems, it isn't large companies that are removing the trees. It's mainly individual farmers. Ghana's people are moving deeper into forested areas too, to escape droughts and growing deserts or to find better farmland. When they get to a new part of the forest, they often cut down and burn the trees to create new farms to grow their crops. This is called slash and burn, and although this technique quickly clears the land, it also removes nutrients from the soil and has pushed many native species of plants close to extinction.
With the slash and burn technology, farmers are moving every 2 to 3 years. If his farming life is 30 years, he will have moved 10 times at least. So it means 50 acres of rainforest gone. Whereas if he was doing better agriculture, better soil management, he would have been using the same 5 acres over that 30-year period.
But some local groups are trying to reduce deforestation. Here, 600 acres of deforested land are being replanted with native herbs for medicines. Since most Ghanaians prefer herbal medicines, this project could revitalize the area, protecting the native plants from extinction and restoring the balance between environment and the people who depend on it to make a living. But these smaller programs can't do it alone, and the trees continue to disappear. To combat this problem, the government has made regulations that require newly deforested areas to be replanted with trees. Given enough time, Ghana's rainforest will eventually regenerate and regrow. The question is there enough time?
All right. So how is deforestation hurting the country of Ghana? What? It's taking away resources, right? They cut the forest like by a quarter, right, of what it used to be. What are the main reasons for cutting down the forest? What? Go ahead. It's a quick way to get cash, right? So who's cutting down the forest? Farmers, individuals. Do they know what they're doing? No. Are they being resourceful in how they use the entire tree? No, they just take the trunks and not use the other parts of the trees that which actually, you can make paper out of. What else? Pencils. Build a house. I mean, there's all these ways that you can use a tree, right? You have to be resourceful on how you take the most out of a particular resource. But they're so desperate for cash that they're just taking the trunks and selling it off to timber companies, all right? What are the problems presented with slash and burning your landscape? Yes, it causes many plants to go extinct, right? How are governments trying to address these problems? Yes, they're trying to replant more trees, looking into planting herbal plants, right? Because it's very popular in Ghana as well. So that's, once again, another problem that these different countries in Africa have to deal with. The fourth thing is on oil drilling and the problems that presents for Nigeria. If you want, you can always go on to Frontline